everybody, it's Sarah.
Them.
Welcome to Love
Lore.
Lemonade.
Lemonade.
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. We want to see you next week.
Hey everybody, it's Em again today. We're unfortunately missing Sarah again. This month has just been one for the books, y'all. Well, welcome to Love, Lore, Lemonade. I'm excited to have y'all with us today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we want to see you next week. We have more authors with us today. I'm loving this project that we have of talking to authors, finding fun topics, and learning new things. So first, we have Jayce Pagaduan, and they're going to introduce themselves.
My name is Jayce Pagaduan. I write under the name J. Pagaduan. I do primarily horror, fantasy, and science fiction, but I have gotten a few essays and lit fic pieces published, most of which are in Two Rules of Writing. Um, I have a new book. I actually have two new books out right now. One of them is
Wow.
available for free on my mailing list, and the other one came out just a couple months ago. It's the sequel to my first novel, and it's titled Champion of the Dead.
That is so cool and a lot of work. Congrats.
Thank you.
Awesome title too.
Ha.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And our other guest is Govinda Jones.
Hi, I'm Govinda. I write under G.N. Jones. Um, I'm an author from Queens, New York. I pretty much exclusively write hard and dark fantasy right now, but I want to expand out as time goes on, as I get more things published. The last thing I had published was a short story, actually. It was published in a zine, and that was like 2 weeks ago. It came out
Oh,
October
congrats.
7th, so that was cool. That was pretty cool. Um, I like getting really angry at ranked video games and writing books, and that's pretty much all there is to life, right?
Well, it sounds like a good life.
Thanks.
For our listeners and our viewers. I'm going to try and tag them down below, or at least give handles, so you guys can go find them or find their websites. We're going to jump into one of my favorite parts. I love figuring out what people like to drink. Today, I am doing two drinks. I've got my emotional support water cup. People have seen this in probably almost every episode. It is fantastic. Emotional support cup. And then I'm having just some good old Coke to settle my stomach. So, nothing fancy. What are you guys drinking today?
Just out of reach, I have a glass of water with meal. I like to start the day with a cup of coffee. That's generally the only time I drink coffee is like that first cup in the morning, and then the rest of the day it's sparkling water or Diet Pepsi.
Sparkling water is interesting because it's like I feel like it's such an acquired taste when you start drinking sparkling water instead of drinking like soda, then you instantly it's like something clicks in your head. Because I used to not like sparkling
Sparkling
water, and
water.
I was like, okay, I'm not gonna drink soda anymore. And then I started drinking sparkling water. I was like, this is great.
I feel like
Yeah.
some brands are really good, and other brands taste like they're thinking of a flavor. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I was
imaginary.
diagnosed with diabetes when I was quite young, type
Oh,
1. And so sparkling water was one of the things that my family switched some of my drinks out to because most of them are no sugar. So,
that's fantastic.
Oh
That's a great
wow.
way to, still be able to have a fun drink without worrying about your health. That's really cool.
yeah.
So, it's our current
So
reaction. Oh, go ahead.
on the opposite side of the spectrum, there's this Japanese store by my job, so I bought this, and I can't read the ingredients, so I don't really know how much sugar is in it. It's probably like good to rot my stomach, but it's one of those ramen sodas, and I don't like popping down the marble, so I just buy them in a can. It's really cool. But of course, the other thing is I ran to the building before I got here, so I'm like afraid to open it just in case it explodes. But that's what I got.
Well, if it does explode, we'll take a break and we'll see you again later. All right,
If you
let's
just
do our current reads. She came over for a party recently that I hosted, and we were talking about books and things that interest us, just fun bonding. And she borrowed this book from the library. I guess it's the book that sort of got her into reading. It's called The Matchmaker's Lonely Heart by Nancy Campbell Allen, and I just started reading it. It's really good. It's a um, historical fiction romance, and I think it's also Christian. My fam, I'm excited to try it. She owns books 2 and 3, so she borrowed the first one so I could start it and then read the other two. So I'm excited. Don't really know what to expect. I feel like a lot of them follow similar patterns, but I'm excited to bond with her about them. So that's what I'm currently reading.
I figured since it's spooky season, I would, read something thematically appropriate. But I realized recently that while I've read quite a bit of horror, most of it has been by, like, white folks. And I'm not actually familiar with what BIPOC writers tend to write about. So one of the first ones I picked up was Never Whistle at Night. And it's an anthology of Native stories written by Native voices from the US and Canada. And it's just absolutely fantastic. I cannot sing the praises of this book enough. Like getting to see that, being able to step outside of the predominant culture in the US
Yeah.
and see things through a different perspective has been really eye-opening.
So it's a horror anthology?
It is, and it features I don't know what they call them, like cryptids and supernatural creatures that do feature in some of the tales from what I understand. Like,
So
I'm
it's
not
sorry.
native, I'm Filipino, so I'm not as up to date on the stories, but it is quite fascinating and I'm really enjoying it.
That's really cool. I am a huge proponent of supporting BIPOC authors as much as we can, and people of minorities. And so I'm excited that you brought this up because a couple episodes we were talking about similar on Indigenous Peoples Day. And so we were talking about some of our favorite Indigenous authors and things. And I'm really excited you brought this up because this kind of seems like something that I would be interested in. Horror is not usually my genre, but I like things like cryptids. I had a book that I was obsessed with when I was younger that was about cryptids, and so I'm definitely going to check this one out. Um, and if I just, is it on KU?
I'm not sure if it's on KU. I did get my copy on Amazon,
Oh,
but I'm not sure where else it is.
okay. I will search it on Amazon, but that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm
Sounds
really
tight. I'm
excited.
writing that down too.
Never Whistle at Night, a horror anthology. And it's written by Indigenous people of North America?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just writing all my little notes down.
I wrote it down too. It sounds cool.
Oh, well, that's fascinating. Very excited about that. Okay, thank you, Jay. That was awesome. Govinda, what are you reading right now?
I have two buddy reads, and I'm a little bit of a deadbeat with one because I ordered the book, but it was way bigger than I thought it would be. So it's probably like, I mean, this means nothing, but it's like way bigger than a normal paperback should be. So in me keeping it in my backpack, I've just managed to kind of like bend all the corners and not read this really heavy book. So then I'm like trying to read it at home, and it's just like I'm slowly getting through it. It's the last Argument of Kings by Joe Abercrombie. And that's a fantasy book, so it's kind of like outside the scope of what's going on. But it's I read the previous two books, and Abercrombie's a genius. Like the way he talks, the way he writes fight scenes is really, really cool to me because there's this sense of inertia to it. And they're generally not that long, so it feels very realistic where it's kind of like a quick and a brutal type of thing, and then afterwards you're like, whoa, what just happened? And his character writing is really, really good. He has multiple points of view, and each voice is really distinctive. Each feels real in the sense that it's just not like, kind of like a cut out, okay, this is what this character should be like, and this is what this character should be like. And then also, I just finished with my friend recently Do Android Stream of Electronic Sheep, which everyone knows is like the Blade Runner book, the book that they based Blade Runner off of. And that was really cool, actually, especially it's so cool. And it's a short book. It's only like maybe 200 pages, somewhere in that range. But I mean, with everything that's going on in the world with like AI and all this other stuff, it's still like super, super, super relevant to everything. It's funny because like a lot of horror is also so relevant to the things that are going on in the world. And I love seeing the subtext and how those things factor in. This was written in this time, so this was what the fears of the general public were, so this is how it's reflected in the work. It's really interesting.
Stable read. Okay, so we're reading Hot for Teacher by Monique Fisher. She is a black woman, and she writes romance, and I love it. She is fantastic. She's one of my favorite authors. She's got a great flow. She really understands how to hook you. Her, and I love Lena James. If you ever want two fantastic women of color romance authors, you gotta hit them up. Their books are great. Especially Lena James. Recently, she found out that her cover designer was tracing other people's art and like copyrighted art. And so she had to pull down several books because she had used her for several books for her cover design. So if you want to go support someone who's kind of been through it a little bit lately, go support Lena James. She totally deserves it. Her books are also fantastic romance books. Yeah, I can't shut up about them. They're some of my favorite authors. I have plenty of other favorite authors, but right now we're reading Hot for Teacher by Monique Fisher, so I've got to talk her up. Book releases. Let me pull out my handy dandy planner. Jayce, Govinda, if you guys ever have books coming out, or if your friends have books coming out, DM me so I can put them on the calendar, and then I can share about them. It's my favorite thing to
Oh,
do.
absolutely.
Thank you very
It's
much.
color-coded.
That's really cool.
Let's see some books that have come out. Okay, so this episode, we were supposed to film a couple of weeks ago. Life happens. So I'm just going to read the books that I would have read off then. They've already come out, which means y'all are in for a treat. You've just got like, I'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 books. They're already out.
13.
That's incredible. That's only the books that I have searched up, though. Which is why I'm so interested to have other authors send me their books, send me friends' books, so that I can continue to just post everybody's books, which isn't possible, but I want to. I have so many favorite authors. It's really hard to narrow it down.
You're doing a good job.
We'll see. These are just the books that I got recommended because of people who I followed on Amazon. Were books that I get a lot of book ads on my Instagram. Duh. So I screenshot them and then I figure out when they're coming out and write them down. But my algorithm is very tuned to me, so I don't have a ton of sci-fi. I don't really have any horror. I don't really have thriller. Don't really have nonfiction. Don't really have children's books. Pretty focused on romance genres. Some fantasy. sort of really romance. That's kind of my thing. So
That's the
we
wheelhouse. We'll make a horror fan out of you in a second.
we all have a thing, right?
Yeah.
So I've got How My Neighbor Stole Christmas, Merry Christmas, You Filthy Animal by Megan Quinn. I think the series is called How My Neighbor Stole Christmas, and then the book is actually called Merry Christmas, You Filthy Animal by Megan Quinn. And then the author's Megan Quinn. Anyways, very excited to read that one. I love a good, fun holiday romance, you know. Then Bottle Rocket by Kenna King, The Mountain Echoes by Maya Alden. I have already I don't know how to explain how much I love Maya Alden. She writes the kind of romance that stabs you in the heart and you're like thankful for it because it just kills. Like she writes the most like she tears your heart out. It's all about like second chances and miscommunication and misunderstanding and groveling, and it is so good. So she has a book coming out. Well, so this book was the October book, and I think she has two October books coming up. She's a pretty prolific writer. She writes a ton, and I love it. But she has one coming out in October. She's got one coming out in November. When is it? Time After Time. I'm so excited for Time After Time. I've already thought about it a ton. And then she's got one called Truth in Tinsel coming out in December on the 17th. I'm very excited. I'm counting down. I'm so sorry. I'm very
These books
excited
are
about
like
her books.
super tailored to Christmas. It's genius.
Yeah, she's incredible. If you ever want to sob and like you need to cry, pick up one of her books. It will work. Then Feral Fates by Evie Mitchell. Love a good Evie Mitchell book. Then pretty sure it's Break the Halls by K.M. Gillis or Gillis. It's Gillis. Playmaker by Avery Keelan. Scrooged for the Holidays. Sorry, it's holiday romance season, so I'm all giggly about it. By Kayla Grossi. I'm not 100% sure. I've read a couple of her books. She writes a lot of plus size FMCs, so it's great to pick up her books. So we don't always get that rep. Then Played by Sadie Kincaid. That's if I remember right, I think that's like the 5th or 6th book in the series, and I think it's the last book in that series. No, maybe it's a different series. Anyways, I love the Sadie Kincaid series, and I've been waiting for this one as well. I've been waiting for them all. I'm sorry.
Do they all rhyme with her name? Because I think that's really cool. Played by Sadie Kincaid.
You know, I think they do. I think they all end in ED. I'll have to look.
See, that's all these people are so good at. You guys are great at finding titles for books.
Seriously.
That's really
Takes
good
me a million
branding.
years.
Yeah.
Right?
She has incredible branding. Okay, The Last Person by Bethany Monaco Smith. And then if you ever want a good, like, generational author, so an author who writes, like, grandparents, parents, kids, grandkids, you know, the whole shebang, read every book by Cleo Brown. You will love it. She's got a Facebook group, and she has, like, a whole list of, like, who to read and how everything's connected. She writes MCs. She's an Indigenous woman from New Zealand. I love her so much. I'm pretty sure she's Indigenous. I feel like we've talked about this. I've DM'd her and she's replied, which I feel like is a conversation, and I will brag about that every day of my life. Anyways,
That's sick.
she has her book is called Dima's Vision. Then Chasing Never by T.A. Lawrence. If I remember right, I think this is like a Peter Pan Neverland sort of retelling. Not 100% sure on that, but I do love a good T.A. Lawrence. If you want a good, like, Highland Scottish hotties book, read anything by Catherine Levick. She just had a book called Highland Slayer coming out. And then if you like Omegaverse, I'm sorry, these are all romance books. If you like Omegaverse, read Melissa Huxley. She just had, I think it might be the last book in her series, Pucking Pregnant. Anyways, it's called Sincerely Pucked. It's a lot of puh. I'm so sorry.
It's a lot of puh.
It's a lot of puff. Anyways, those are all great books. Do you guys know of any fun books that just came out or books that you've been excited about?
I have one I really like called Beneath the Rio Cobre, and it's by W.H. Vigo, and she's a Jamaican Canadian author,
Ooh.
and actually I think they're they she they pardon me. The book is about this guy in Jamaica, and he's mixed. His one of his parents is white, and then he's in Jamaica, and then there's this other. They're trying to figure out why there's this like it's almost like a famine. People are dying in the river, and the river's getting really dirty and messed up. And it's like there's a lot to learn culturally about the story. A lot of it has to kind of do with that idea. Like when you go and you read a Gothic story, there's like civilization is here, and then there's this old sort of deep belief that's on the other side. And then the main character is kind of in between these two worlds. And then he's also mixed, so then he's in between those two worlds. So it's a really interesting thing where it's like, okay, he's kind of rich and he's dealing with people that are a little bit more lower class economically, and then there's all these dualities that are told in this one story. And it's really interesting. It's really cool. You feel for the characters. And it feels kind of like an episode of like Tales from the Crypt or something, where you just like you get that little spark. A lot of times horror has that little spark where you're reading it and then it's like gone, you know? So it's a cool feeling. It's cool. You get invested and then it's there, and then you kind of have to sit there and ruminate, you know?
We're into the meat of our episode, and I think I'm quite excited to hear you guys talk about this. Because like we've just established, I am a romance reader primarily. I really don't dabble in horror, but we're into the meat of our episode, and today's episode is all about horror. Let me try that one again. Horror and false acts. I felt like we needed something to lighten it up after. But so my first question
This is
about
sour
horror.
than this sweet.
I asked this. I did a thriller episode, and I asked the two authors, what did you feel like was the difference between thriller and horror? And we talked a lot about how in today's world our genres aren't so definitive. Well, I guess books aren't so definitive. A lot of time they cross genres. Like we've really had a significant amount of romantasy come out in the last couple of years, and so I'm really curious to hear your takes on what that line is. Or if there's a line. How do you feel like you differentiate?
That's a good question, and I think that it's really not remotely black and white. Like there is, it's less black and white and more just grayscale. There's significant overlap because horror is considered part of it falls under the thriller umbrella. So you can't really separate the two of them. It has something to do with like the use of tension and timing and overlap of tropes and things like that. So you can't really separate the two, but some things are clearly more one or the other. Like John Grisham is definitely not horror.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I think, as with most things, money is kind of one of the big things that draws the line. So I notice when you walk into a bookshop and you look at the horror section, there's like one shelf that's like all Stephen King.
Uh-huh.
And then there's another shelf that's like almost like espionage, and they're kind of thrillers, but most of them are kind of like about almost secret agents and stuff, which is cool too. But I think part of it is like okay, what's gonna sell, and then okay, what can we fit in the smallest amount of space possible,
Yeah.
just in case nobody wants to read all this stuff. And then what I noticed is, as people try and sell their books, then they're like, okay, what categories can I spin this in so people will actually find it and go and read it? So I think there's the sort of definitional stuff that's like, if you're hitting X, Y, and Z, then maybe you can throw it in there and maybe somebody will read it and be like, so what this is about at all, but this is cool, and then keep reading. But for me, I think thriller, in my mind, the first thing I think of with thriller is like something that is grounded in reality. And horror generally has some uncanny element to it. So even if it's normal people, then there's something weird going on. But like
I,
Jay said, then it's kind of inextricable at the same time.
that's sort of what we kind of landed on, is that there's this. Well, one point that we made was that a lot of times it feels like thriller is things that can happen in real life. So I feel like a lot of true crime books or like crime novels are thrillers. And then horror books, like you said, the uncanny element. I called it the paranormal element, where there's things that like probably shouldn't be able to happen. Um, and to me, I feel like a lot of ghost stories or things like that. Um, well, I think there's a level that not all ghost stories are horror. Obviously, I think there's a level of like fear you need to be able to inspire to call it a
Yeah.
horror book. Um, but I feel like a lot of that sort of element falls into horror when the fear is added. Right.
I, one thing that I also think about when I think about horror is, in my opinion, you're experiencing somebody go through a situation that's like harrowing. It's like you're watching somebody go through like the worst day of their life. And that's kind of the fun of horror, where you're watching somebody go through the worst day of your life. And you either really, really hope that they're going to make it through. And when they do, then you're like, wow, I can go through anything in my life because this person survived this alien attack or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they don't, then it's kind of like, hey, that person deserved it. Good. Bite their ankles or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I think with thriller, it's kind of like, what if this happened to me? I mean, for
Mm-hmm.
horror, it's like, what if this happened to me? And for thriller, it's kind of like, what if this happened to you? You know?
Yeah.
Because a thriller is something that would probably happen, but generally speaking, I don't know. I'm not gonna say generally speaking, but I kind of feel like I'm thinking more about if this happened to somebody else.
So I guess this feels like it's a good lead-in to talk about what you look for in a horror, and like you can use examples. So like what I've looked for in horror when I have read it or watched it. Um, I'll be honest, I watched Annabelle and the Conjuring movies, not all of them, but several of them, in college with my friends. We watched them, and I wanted to watch them because I wanted to be cool like my friends. So that's what I was looking for when I watched them. But I feel like they have that. I really like that you use the word uncanny because it is very uncanny. Things like I look for like a really good what is that called? Like orchestra? Like the music in the movie.
Oh,
And
the score.
the score, yes, thank you. I feel like a really good score makes or breaks a horror movie for me. On the flip side, The Quiet Place, where it's so, I mean, like it's silent. That really, that was a rough movie for me. Um, but it's really good. I would rewatch that one. I don't know. I'm deciding if I want to rewatch the other ones and anything. But I feel like something like that, like a good score, or in a book, a really good world building, where there's very subtle hints, but there's still distinct hints of like how the world is set up so that when something does happen, it's unsettling. Because I don't like, I really in any of my books when they're just like, okay, this is how all the houses look, this is all this is how world is. I much prefer to be like reading my characters go through their story and in the background learning, oh, like this is how their house is, this is how, these are the rules of society and everything. I much prefer that. So when something does happen, it is a lot more, it causes a bigger response in me, if that makes sense. Because I like those emotional highs and lows. Often it's very cathartic and I'll cry and my husband will be confused and concerned and then I'll tell him about it. I read because it helps me be able to communicate better. And so, yeah, what I'll turn it over to you guys now. Go back to the original question. What do you look for?
What I look for is really good execution of the uncanny valley, where things are almost right, but there's something you can't quite put your finger on that isn't adding up. And I found that the best horror is an absolute expert. The best horror utilizes that to sometimes devastating effect. Like, and the longer it goes on, like the more things add up, but it still
Mhm.
doesn't make sense. So,
Mm.
What's one movie or book that you feel like really embodies that spirit?
one that I just finished recently was called The House of Blood and Teeth by Maxwell Bauman. And it's a novella. It was a really short read. I think I read it in like an hour.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but it was this family had bought a house and it was a fixer upper, so the dad's going through and trying to fix it up, and the more he works on it, the more the house falls apart. And it gets to the point where even the residents, his neighbors, are noticing that something's not right. And it's the way the way the whole book is laid out. It's just things just kind of slowly build up towards the climactic ending, and I really liked the way the tension was stretched out for most of the book because it's what's going on.
Hmm.
It doesn't make
Oh.
sense.
That sounds really good. I don't know if I'll ever be able to read it, but I'm definitely gonna text my friends and be like, "Oh my gosh, you have to read this. I think you'll love it. Please tell me about it later."
I'll read it for you, don't worry. It
Thanks.
sounds cool. I think I'll do like a movie and a book. And the movie is hilarious because both of my parents are really into horror, and I watched a lot of horror movies. They trusted me a lot, so they would watch horror movies with me. And a couple of them I think I was a little young for, but there's a certain it's funny because it's kind of related to the uncanny
Hmm.
um that you were just talking about. But like there's this movie Slither. I think it's 2006. And funny enough, James Gunn directed that movie.
Oof.
And it's one of the few horror movies I've only seen once because it was just such a like wretched movie. It's like some of the imagery that you get in that movie is just it's not gross, it's grotesque. And I think grotesque is really interesting because it's not something that's been tried and true. It's not like a werewolf or a vampire where
Hmm.
kind of the interesting thing is, okay, what's this person's spin on the collection of rules that they kind of
Yeah.
have? But in Slither, there's a bunch of aliens, and they crash land to Earth on like a meteorite, and then they go in your mouth, and then they do this weird thing where they have this hive mind, and they start fusing all the people in the town together into this mass of like skin and teeth, and it's like such a bizarre mental concept. And then when I was young, I was just thinking about like what it would be like to lose your individuality,
Oh
and that
yeah.
was a really freaky idea. So I think good horror, and like the best movie ever is John Carpenter's The Thing. And John Carpenter's The Thing also has this thing where it's just like this, there's an immediate threat that's unidentifiable. Your mind just doesn't comprehend that. And before this thing, you couldn't really explain it to somebody. And then after this thing, it's like, oh, the creature from the thing. You know what I mean? You can't like,
Hmm.
it's not a vampire. It's not Frankenstein. It's the thing alien. Where it's just
Yeah.
kind of like you, unless you know what that thing is, it's such a landmark thing. And that's like, that's such a goal that you could create something that it's a landmark for somebody. And it's really, you have the small town that's trapped in Slither. You have the Arctic in the thing, which is another factor in where it's not just a monster. It's like you can't escape. You can't go outside. Outside is just as dangerous as inside. And then there's this component of, okay, if this happens to me, then I lose myself. Or if this happens to me, then this thing is trying to become me. Like these are
Hmm.
all really, really interesting um, concepts, and it's all in one movie. So that's kind of what I think about. I'm like, okay, what am I presenting as far as the fears of this, and what's the subtext? You know,
Hmm.
um, losing yourself is a really interesting thing. I think that's relevant more than ever, and I think isolationism and sort of paranoia in the thing are like super, super relevant to everybody because it makes you act out of character.
Hmm.
And then for books, I kind of I feel like I have a low bar for books because the more creative that you are, I find the more critical you are, and the more happy you are to like give praise when praise is due.
Hmm.
So in being critical, I think it's just kind of like not critical, but okay, I would have did this a different way. But with praising, it's like, wow, this person did this way, and I would have never thought of that. This is cool, and you're kind of appreciating things. So with horror books especially, but with any book, I'm looking for characters. And if I can feel for the character and connect with the character and root for the character or root against the character, because either one is fine, then that's what I'm looking for. That's like the baseline. If I don't really feel like I want this person to win at the end or I want this person to get torn to shreds at the end, I'm kind of like, all right, it's cool, you know?
Yeah, I throughout you guys talking, I thought of the movie. I haven't seen it, but it's actually a horror movie that I've seen an ad for and I've really been like quite intrigued about it. Um, Really quick, I'm gonna look it up on my phone. The premise is that there's this dog, and everything's filmed from like the dog's height, or I think it's filmed from the dog's perspective. And I'm pretty sure the dog lives. In case that's like, oh, it's okay. It's called Good Boy. So it's a dog who worries about. Oh, so there's a dog, and then there's a brother and a sister, and the sister worries about her brother living in a home by himself, so isolated. Um, and the sister believes the house is haunted and contributed to their grandfather's death. And then the dog can see the like scary horror dude thing, and it's all about which I think is fascinating. I don't think I've really ever seen a movie based on like what the dog like you can see it from like the pet's perspective. I've seen it done a couple of times in books where they'll add in like a short little chapter of like I just finished it one where they had it was an Omega verse. There was the Omega, she owned a cat rescue, and her alphas, one of them like hated cats, but he eventually adopted the mean cat that nobody wanted. because they're both mean. And he's actually like a really good guy. They just like don't like people, you know? And at the very last chapter of the book is from the cat's perspective going, my dad's great, doesn't expect much of me. Mom's fine. The other cat they adopted can go away, and it's just the worst kind of cat. Like, you gotta have some more dignity and pride in yourself. And my uncles, yeah, I'm fine. I don't want them. They need to leave. And it was hilarious. And I was like, what a way to like end a book, you know? Like, so I'm actually wanting to see that movie because I think it's a perspective you don't see often in a world where there's so many people writing and creating and things. I love to see originality, and especially because I feel like we've gotten a lot of remakes of movies lately, or TV shows and things. I like to see something new come out every once in a
A
while.
horror movie I really like is actually comedy horror. It's called Tucker and Dale versus Evil. And it's a slasher style, but with this comedic element that is just absolutely genius. The way the comedy is utilized to both break the tension and keep it going is just absolutely brilliant.
What is it called?
Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
I've heard of that one. I haven't watched it. I think the guys who did it they did another comedy horror one, right?
I think they did. I don't remember
I
what it's
saw one
called
of these, I
offhand
swear.
though.
I don't know
Eli
if this is
Tucker.
really considered horror. My husband and I were watching a movie recently, and we got an ad for. Oh, well, I think it might have been a DVD, so we got like the old DVD, ads. And
Mhm.
okay, it's called Shaun of the Dead.
Oh,
Oh
that
yeah,
makes
Shaun
And
of the
sense.
Dead.
my husband's watched, I think there's three movies, Hot Fuzz and something
Paul, was
else.
it? Was
What?
it Paul? I think they did because it's Simon Pegg and Nick
Hmm.
Frost, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Were they in Paul
I am not
with the
sure. We
alien?
saw the one for Hot Fuzz. That was the ad that we saw.
Hmm.
And I feel like I don't know, it's comedy, but I don't know if you guys consider that horror. But that one seems like very interesting. The parody, but it's still having that, um original scope to it. I remembered a
Okay.
question. One of the questions is you totally got me. That helped. Um when how do you get inspired? Like what inspires you to write horror? And then have you ever written something that scared you? Like have you ever written something and been like, "Wow, that was unexpected that I'm actually scared." Even though you're the one like building the story, if that makes sense.
So starting with your second question, I have. I have many stories that I will never release because they were literally just horrific nightmares that I wrote to purge them and stick them
Hmm.
someplace other than my brain.
Yeah.
Those I have left explicit instructions are to be destroyed because they're in my opinion that awful.
Mhm.
Um, but what inspires me is a variety of things. I consume a lot of different media. One of my friends is a writer and editor, and we've bounced ideas off of each other and done similar things. That no one would guess if you were to read both of our things that we were friends and that one work had inspired the other. Mostly it's me taking inspiration from him. Um, but I also take inspiration from um just just random thoughts that float through my head. It's like, wouldn't it be funny if, or wouldn't it be terrifying if, and then
Uh-huh.
just brainstorm. And sometimes it sticks, sometimes it doesn't. I have entire notebooks full of these random ideas that like 99% of which have been thrown away, but every once in a while it's turned into something good.
That's really cool. I love that you have somebody you can bounce them off ideas off of. I think that's really important in the creative process, no matter what you're creating. I am creatively, what I like to do is I do a lot of embroidery and cross stitch and painting and things. And I love having my husband there because he is not creative at all. He paints with me because I like to paint, and I play video games with him because he likes to play video games, and I've actually come to enjoy them. Um, but I'll show him things, and since he's not very creative, he'll go, "Oh yeah, I like that," or "That looks weird." But he doesn't really, like, he has an opinion, but he's not like as invested in it if he did it every day. And
Mm,
I love that you have that support system and way to express your creativity. That's really cool.
Thank you.
I have a question for you, Jayce, based off of what you just said. When you, I guess, why don't you just go destroy those stories, or do you go back and read them when you need another purge? Um, and do you feel like they're bad because of how terrifying or horrific they are, or do you think it's bad writing, or both?
It's not that it's bad writing and that it's necessarily terrified me. It's like at this point um it's more that it once terrified me. Like it was something that like
Oh
literally
yeah.
woke me up screaming. But I also don't want to be the one to delete it because I never delete anything. Like I have my first novel was Savior of the Damned. I have literally every draft saved in a separate document that I refuse to delete because I never know if I might need it again.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll change my mind with those stories. It's happened in the past. There have been
Yeah.
a few that I wrote down and then walked away from and then came back and it was like, oh, actually, if I tweak this, then it would work. So there's always that spark, that potential spark where I could turn it around. But mostly it's because I can't bear to delete anything because what if I change my mind?
Hey, that's fair. I get it. I have lots of cards from people. I've pared down. But there's certain things that I won't ever get rid of because, what if I need it again? And sentimentality. Well, Govinda, what are your thoughts?
Um, First, I kind of wanted to piggyback because I don't delete anything either. And I feel like once you write it down, whether it's like typed up or it's written by hand, then it's kind of like you put this little baby in the incubator where you can come back and you can get it and it can grow into something that's like big and healthy and you can put it out into the world or whatever. But I think putting ideas down is really good. Otherwise, it just kind of dies in your brain. But once it's out and about, then you never know when it'll take form or in what form. But at least then it has its life. It's
Yeah.
alive. Um, but then like, what was the original question? I'm sorry.
Um, so what inspires you? How do you get inspired? And then there anything you've written that's like terrified you?
Right. Okay. Inspired. I probably want to say the biggest inspirations for me are music and movies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a musician. I play a drum. It's a two-headed drum called a col. Sometimes they call it a murdunga. It has two different names. But like I traveled a lot and I played in a lot of different places. And I think there's just something about the rhythm of music that's very inspirational. And also, when you look at a lot of the writing of music, I want to achieve that where, let's say you have a song, it's like, okay, you have 16 bars in the verse, and then you have a chorus, and then you have another 16. If you're lucky, maybe you get two verses, and you have to move on. So it's not a lot of time to say what you need to say and get that idea across to the person that's listening. So what musicians have to do that I really, really appreciate is I got to get you to feel the feelings that I'm trying to express. I have to give you room to use your imagination and put yourself into it and interact and everything. And I have to do it in this amount of time. There's that meme where the girl's like, it's Tiffany Pollard, and she's like, "Do you guys know you have 30 minutes? 30 minutes? You have 30 minutes to write it down." So like, even in sentence structure, it's like boiling away everything where it's like, I need you to get the message across
Mm-hmm.
in as little words as possible. So then I want to pack it in, and then I can start to play with, okay, this sentence and how they interact and the rhythm of how it reads and the flow and everything. But really boiling everything down and getting it to you in a way that you use your imagination so it's potent, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to using like a billion words, and then the person's like exhausted by the end. They're like, "Oh, I kind of
Yeah.
understand what you mean." But when people say things like, it's like dark, like under the bed or something like that, it's kind of like, "Oh, okay, it's a snappy turn of phrase, and now I understand what you're talking about instantly. I know what you're saying."
Yeah.
So music's a big inspiration. Movies, I used to do this thing where I'd watch a movie or I'd watch a movie scene, and then I'd try and write the scene out um, in, like, not prose, but like written,
Mm-hmm.
and see if the person got from what I'd written what they would get from the camera. And obviously, it's a different medium, so there's
Yeah.
different things that you get from each and every one of them, but it's really a way of expressing yourself. So it's like, okay, I expressed this a certain way. What did they get from it? And I think that's the beautiful thing, relationship between the reader and the author. We have this really like intimate hush hush secret where I wrote something and then you got something from it. And
Yeah.
sometimes it is what you were trying to get them, and sometimes it's something different that you never thought of. And that's what's beautiful about reading and writing. It's like, oh wow, this person took the details and what I gave them, and then they arrived at this point, and it's really cool. So that's inspiring. I think just respecting readers' time and having people enjoy things, that's
Yeah.
really inspiring. And then there's one part in particular, this is a few different parts, but in my debut novel, I have a chapter that I wrote, and it was dark. It was like the dead of night, and everyone in my house had gone to sleep. And I wrote it, and then after I wrote it, I like closed my laptop and I didn't look at it until probably the second draft. I was like, I'm not reading this. I'm not, whatever just happened there, I'm not touching that. And a lot of people like reacted well to it. I actually read it. It's on my Instagram. It's one of the pinned posts.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's this whole chapter, but it's part of it. Um, but it's really good. Check it out.
That's really neat. My last question for our horror topic is, do you prefer reading horror novellas or horror novels? Like, do you feel like the length affects it, or do you think, like, okay, let me try that question again. Do you prefer reading one length or the other because you feel like the tension is better in one, or do you feel like it depends on the actual book? Do you feel like there's some books that were novellas and you're like, man, I feel like this would have been better as a novel because I feel like I needed more time, or the reverse?
I
It's a good question.
think it depends on the book. There are some books that do really well as 1,000 page monstrosities, and some that do really well as 100 page slim volumes. But if it's a thing where it feels incomplete, when it's
Mm-hmm.
a novella, or it feels too padded when it's a novel, then that's when you start to run into problems. Um, horror novella that I really enjoy. It's also horror comedy. It's called the Polka Kings of Wisconsin Meet the Creature from the Black Church. And it was
That
seriously,
sounds
I read it in like
incredible.
half an hour.
Yeah.
But it was just this amazing book that was just absolutely perfectly encapsulated into what it was, and it hit all the right tension notes. Um it had a good, it had good structure, like in regards to storytelling. It had a satisfying ending, and it was just, any more, if any more had been added, it would have been too much. But
Yeah.
at the 50 pages it was absolutely perfect.
Uh, I, in high school, we had to read some short stories that were, a couple pages length or whatever, and I always desperately wished for more. But I can't imagine having something be only 50 pages and have it complete. So I'm really impressed that the author was able to do that and really invoke those feelings in you. Honestly, the title sounds hilarious, and I'm quite intrigued by it.
It was a really good
Um,
book.
every time I hear Polka Kings or anything like that, I always think of Home Alone. Have you guys seen that
Yeah.
movie when the mom's trying to come back and she like has to drive with the polka people in the truck? I always think of that. So when you said that, I was like, I thought of those guys from that specific movie in a
The
horror
hats and
book.
the good old Home
All right,
Alone.
Govinda, do you have any thoughts on this question?
Um, I think it's funny because I keep saying this thing to my friend because he's like, we have the opposite problem. He's an overwriter. He's a writer also, and I'm an underwriter. So I'm like, my first draft is like lean meat. It's really, really, really like as boiled down as possible, and then I kind of look at it and I decide what it needs and I'm a fix it and post kind of guy. And
Mm-hmm.
he will like write a billion pages and then go back and cut things. And because like my philosophy is I want everything to be necessary. Like I could open any one of the stories that I wrote, books or anything, and I could do like director's cut. So I could like read the sentence and I'll tell you why I chose the words for that sentence. I'll tell you why I chose the length for that sentence. All this stuff. It's all like as intentional as possible. All that said, like two of my favorite horror novels, one's a novella and the other one is a monstrosity, like you were saying. It's like long for no reason because I really like The Hellbound Heart, which is the book that Hellraiser was based off. It's a Clive Barker novel, and Clive Barker is the most phenomenal. I read that book and I was like, I need to work on my prose. And then I wrote a second book, and then I was like, he's like. And then the other one that really, really informed me, and it's one of the, I don't remember why I read this book. I just read it and I loved it, was Stephen King's Salem's Lot. And, you talk about horror novels for however long, and Stephen King's going to come up at some point.
Yeah.
But Stephen King's Salem's Lot is like a billion pages, and it all feels necessary, All of it feels like it should be there. So my answer to the question is it should be long enough that you feel like you have all the necessary components, You don't want something to feel incomplete. And when something's too short, sometimes it feels like the author wished they could have put something in there, and
Mm.
for whatever reason they couldn't or they didn't. But there's nothing worse than reading a book that's too long, So
Yeah.
like I'm one of those people, and it's slowly like I've had to eat crow because in my mind, I'm like, there's no reason for a book to be like longer than 400 pages. And this is somebody, and I'm saying that as somebody who loves long books also. But for myself, I'm like, there's no reason for you to write a book that's more than 400 pages. And then, like, I'm approaching 400 pages now on a book or something like that. It's just whatever to make me look like a fool is what's going to happen universally. But I think there's a sweet spot that you can kind of like shoot for. And then whether it goes over or under is not up to you. That's the work's decision. You know what I mean? That's out of your control almost. But I think I'm a lean type of person. I think stick to what's necessary. So that kind of lends itself to novellas. But horror don't underestimate horror, people. Horror can be thousands of pages and be awesome.
I have so many more questions, but we are very, very quickly approaching the I think we're already at 2.5 hours, and we're speeding towards 2 hours, and I don't want to keep you that long. Also, editing, I have to edit a 2 hour episode, or like 2.5 hour episode, and it's rough editing. It's going to be a fantastic episode, but I want to try and keep it under. I'm so sorry.
That's a horror movie in
I
itself.
definitely need to have you guys back on, because like I said, I have more questions and I want to know the answers, and I think our audience wants to know the answers too. We'll wrap up quickly with your favorite / go-to fall snacks or things you like to eat while you read. I'm gonna start my favorite fall snacks. In church, we used to have these Wednesday night activities that we called Mutual. And every October, we would get together and we'd have a hay rack ride. I come from the Midwest, so there's corn everywhere. So we have plenty of mazes. And our leaders would always have, our leaders would just be like some adults, that would just make sure, we were safe. They would plan the activities or help us plan activities, make sure we were planning things that were possible, and they'd help provide food and things. They would always have apple cider, some candy, popcorn balls, and chili and hot cocoa. And, those always invoke those fall memories of fun times with friends, hay rack rides. They would always tell scary stories and try to scare the crap out of us. Because the farmer that we'd ride on his like hay rack, the adults would always sit at the back so they could kind of slip off, and so like the farmer would be like, he'd stop and turn around in his seat and like talk to us and tell us the story, and he'd usually tell us stories about his land and things. Sometimes he would tell horrors or like scary stories, It kind of was a toss-up, but that let the leaders be able to get off without any of us kids noticing. And this was from the ages of 12 to 18. That's kind of the age group that these kids were, that we were. And then they'd have masks or things, and then they would go around and meet us and come out running from the haystacks with masks on, and it was always, it was so scary. And I mean, obviously it was a great memory. I have a lot of fond memories of that time, so that's kind of my go-to, is those nostalgic things. So, what are your guys' favorite fall snacks, or just your favorite snacks to munch on if you like to eat while you read?
My favorite fall snack, hands down, is pumpkin cheesecake. Like, I cannot get enough of that. It is so good. It is so bad for me. I have to take so much insulin, but it's worth
Oh
it.
no.
Pumpkin cheesecake sounds good.
You'll have to send a recipe or send a inspo pic, because I love me some cheesecake. And my husband does not like cheesecake. He doesn't like the texture of it, so I am always happy when we get a little cheesecake, because then I portion it out for myself and I don't have to share.
If you have a cheesecake factory near you, they do a really good one in the fall.
Okay. I don't know if we do, but I'm gonna pray and hope so.
Your husband's like Woody Woodpecker. You ever see that's like one of his lines? It's like, I don't like cheesecake.
No, but now I'm going to. I'm gonna
You
show it to
gotta
him.
call him Woody Woodpecker. Fall
Uh,
snacks. I like now's the season where everything's apple cinnamon, and I love apple cinnamon. So like, there's this chain called the Donut Plant, and they have these random places because in New York they have a couple. They have like four or five store, three, four or five stores, something like that. And then I think they're also in like Japan and then some other random place, but they're international. But they have an apple cinnamon donut that's insane, insane.
that sounds really
And
good.
then it's so good. And then somehow I became like the Oreo guy. I don't know why everyone assumed like I like Oreos, but I think that's become associated with me for some reason in my like friends and family. So people will come over and they'll like bring me Oreos, and I don't know how to feel about it, but I have Oreos, so then it's good.
So what you're saying is not to send Oreos to your PO boxes. That's what you're saying.
You know what? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is send double stuffed Oreos because that's the optimal amount of cream to cookie ratio. Regular Oreos are a farce. Um, and Oreos are vegan too. Somebody told me that recently,
Yep,
and
they
that's
are.
cool too. They're vegan, man. They're still gonna kill me, but they're vegan. So I'm not awesome. Love me some Oreos.
I was not expecting you to say Oreos, but honestly, great. They're tasty. I love a good, so I live in a super small town, which means that like our grocery store is Dollar General,
Mm.
and our gas station is like our ice cream store as well. You know, like a small town where there's like nothing, and one family owns like most of the stores and to support the area, and it's great. I love my town. But it means that when we walk into the gas station, we're usually there for ice cream. And they have one of the best Oreo blizzards, I guess. Um, I'm trying to think of another term. Some people call them tornadoes. Um, some people call them blizzards. But that's their vibe. You know, crushed up Oreos and ice cream is always great. But you said that, and I was like, man, I wonder if I can convince my husband that we should get ice cream tonight.
You should try it. I think the success of this episode depends on whether you get an Oreo thingy or not.
If I can convince him. He says yes to me a lot. I try to not ask for too much. He tells me no. Um, this sounds like I have to ask him for permission for things. No, we just have a conversation and I go, "Hey, I would like this. Do you think it's possible in our budget?" I think it is, but what do you think? You know, it's like that. Like, I
Yeah.
swear, it's not like I'm like, "Honey, may I please have money out of your wallet?" No, I promise. I promise he's
The
not like
Oliver
that.
Twist voice is killing me.
If you ever met my husband, you'd think he's a very sweet man, very sort of quiet guy. But he lives with his whole heart, and we both come from parents that are divorced. So we've had to work very hard on communication and understanding boundaries and kind of, I guess, not righting the wrongs of our parents, but understanding where our parents went wrong, I guess. And so I promise we're okay. I always worry about talking about things like that because, and you know, I think it is an important topic to talk about, make sure people understand and informed consent and things like that. I
Right.
got off topic again, as usual. Um, our last thing, our last part of the meat of our episode is how are our other projects going? And I would just like to say on my embroidery project, I have done, it's pretty big. So imagine it like the outside of my head. Like that's how big my embroidery hoop is. And that's like 3/4 of the design, sort of like the original design. I'm gonna add some extra stuff on the bottom. And I have done all of the light green, all of the yellow, most of the blue, and I officially started the light pink. So now I just have to finish the light pink, do the dark green, do the second light pink, like the next level of pink, the third level of pink, the fourth level of pink, the white, and then the orange, and finish the blue. But I'm excited because I made it to the pinks finally. So, anyways,
Yes.
that's what I'm working on. I definitely have slacked off on it, but it is a very intense process. It's a lot of hunched over, a lot of like, a lot of thread, a lot of effort, but I'm very excited about it. So that's what I'm working on. Do you guys have any non-bookish projects, or are you guys writing anything right now?
Since I released like 3 books this year, and so I am officially on break. It is
Nice.
just time to recharge. I'm a spinner. I make my own yarn that I use in projects. And I recently replaced my
Cool.
wheel, and it's this little 3D printed thing. It's like this big. It sits on the countertop, and I'll sit at the kitchen table and I'll spin yarn. And I've been catching up on the TV shows that I'd fallen behind on while working on these books this year. And then of course I have my notebook like right to hand, so whenever an idea strikes, I can write it down really fast. But that's what
Yeah,
I've been working on.
that is so cool. Um,
Congratulations, because 3 books in 1 year, you're a
oh
machine.
Thank
darn.
you. The secret is I'm always working on something. So if something's off in beta readers' hands, I have a backup project that I work on in the interim.
Nice.
And it just so happened that this year those 3 books lined up perfectly.
Nice. Well, congrats. That's a
Inspirational.
lot of effort, and I'm very impressed as well.
Thank you.
It's awesome. For me, this is gonna sound so silly. I play this game called Street Fighter 6, and like I've grown up on Street Fighter, and like the games and the anime and all this other stuff. I'm like obsessed with Street Fighter. My whole family is like Street Fighter people. They love Street Fighter. I like fighting games in general, but um, I started a long time ago, like maybe 6 months after the game came out, and everyone kind of figured everything out. I'm like just now starting. This is when the game came out, so maybe like 2 years ago almost. I got on there and I was like really bad. So I was there's a character that I'm using that I'm trying to get to diamond ranks, and I placed like
Mm-hmm.
pretty mediocre, but I'm actually like I got good at the game and I placed diamond with another character, but it feels like there's something in my heart where it's like that wasn't my favorite character. So I want to get this other
Yeah.
character to diamond, but it takes so long to get from one place to the next. And I'm not one of those people that can play every day because I'm busy, and then also I'm just kind of like in my mind I'm like I can't justify playing this game for like this long every day, you know? So I'm kind of being kind to myself and being a little regular because I think it's cool to get better at the game. I really love the game and I got like all the characters and stuff. So someday I'll get Jury to Diamond, but until then, who knows? And then just learning more music. Like I'm really trying to train myself and learn more instruments. Like there's a instrument called a harmonium, and it's kind of it's almost like a sideways accordion where there's a pump that puts air through the reeds, and then you play it like a piano. So I'm trying to learn that, and it's easier because I know other instruments, but it's still kind of like finding the time to practice and putting it in. So that's one of my goals for this year and next year. Um, and then just finishing, like, I'm on my third book in my series. I'm trying to get that out in January or February. I've been submitting all these contests this year, and I made it to a zine, actually, Canada's first BIPOC horror and speculative fiction zine. So I made it to that one. That was cool.
That's amazing.
Nice.
Yeah. I have a story. It's called A White Horse Gallops. You should read all the stories in that magazine, but my story's in there. It's about two boys in a war-torn country, and how a biological weapon actually causes all these crazy things to happen. So it's a little sci-fi horror. And right now I'm like revising for this this story that I wrote, and then I'm like looking back at the rules and I'm realizing I'm missing stuff. So I
Oh,
have to like go back and fix it. And when you have 2,000 words, then you're like, I only had 30 minutes, you know? So hopefully that's number 3 down the drain, and I'm in top 8. I'm trying to place top 8.
I'm sorry. Every time you say 30 minutes, I can hear the TikTok sound in my head and it cracks me up.
30 minutes? Did you know you had 30 minutes?
Well, I think that's sort of the end of our episode. I just want to thank you guys so much for coming on. I've had so much fun talking to you guys. I have so many notes of things that I just want to share with everybody, and I know I can't share everything, because they have to come listen to our episode. But thank you so much for spending time with me. I know we've spent so much time together, and I'm sorry it took longer than anticipated. I don't forget, I will have Jayce's and Govinda's information in the caption. Don't forget to follow us and them on social media. Check out their websites.
Because I do work with potentially triggering content, you can check my books pages for triggering content warnings.
I love that. I really appreciate that. That is something that I look for when I try dark romance or darker books, sort of just in general, because, things sometimes are hard, but oftentimes those are the books that are the most cathartic. Another thought, for any authors, any of your guys' friends, if they want to come on, maybe you can convince them to come on, because I love talking to everybody. We have the form in our bio, or if you have any bookstagrammers that you guys work with, any beta readers, art graders, whatever, that would like to come on, we have a separate form for them. And Govinda, you said you were trying to publish your book in January or February. We have a third form, and this is specifically just for releases. It just kind of helps keep things organized. Excuse me. It's just name, author, when it's coming out. So, if you guys have any that you want, you don't have to just do your own books. I had someone talk about one of their friends' books that they met through a bookstore owner, and it was a really cool story. Ended up becoming friends, and that friend is publishing, so she told me about it. So, got those forms. Next week we will. Okay, so we filmed these out of order, so I think we're going to be talking about paranormal and supernatural characters. Okay, thank you so much for coming. I really had a good time talking with you guys. It's always interesting to learn about new books and genres that I'm not really that familiar with. And so I just appreciate sharing your thoughts. And like I said earlier, I have so many more questions. So if you guys want to, I'd love to have you guys back on, or I'll just DM you guys and ask them. So, anyways, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, I think. Thank you guys for tuning in so much to our third episode. We really appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media. The links are down below in the caption.
Um, on Instagram, you'll see photos of things that we talked about throughout the episode. And next week on Love Lore